How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On the Ball, and it is that time of the week again where we delve deep into what happened over the weekend in the Premier League. Obviously, it is the review show of our predictions where me and Sim go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. The scores on the doors at the moment, deadlocked at 211 to 211, and the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season, and it's 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. And let's start off with the Friday night action at the City Ground where it finished 2-0 to Tottenham against Nottingham Forest, both of us going for 3-0. And it could have very well been 3-0 to be honest. Spurs, I thought, wasn't our best performance of the season by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought we professionally got the job done. Yves Bissouma showing his disciplinary problems this season with yet another suspension, yet another red card. But I thought it was a professional away performance for Spurs.
Yeah, and Spurs now building a bit of winning momentum after winning against Newcastle last week, having previously gone 5 games in a row without a win. So showing that they're getting back on form, I feel. And it was a really important win as well, away on a Friday night under the lights against a Forest team who are desperate for points at the moment. They're really struggling to get points on the board, and Steve Cooper's under immense pressure. But I thought Spurs probably just about deserved the victory. They were probably just about the better team. It wasn't the easiest game. I think Forest were making things very difficult. 5 at the back, low block, getting a lot of corners, a lot of long throws, really putting Spurs under pressure. But they held firm. They defended really well. That was probably the highlight of this game, how Spurs defended. And then Kulusevski put in a man-of-match display going forward and obviously won Spurs the game. And now going into the last 2 games of the year, Spurs sit 6 points off top. I know they're in 5th place, but hopefully they've got that bad form, that bad run of form behind them, and they can now really push on after this victory. But Spurs do still have this tendency to make life difficult for them when they're in control of games, and they nearly did the same in this one. So it's definitely something that Spurs need to look into.
Yeah, 100%. But I get what you're saying. Spurs can get back on track and are getting back on track, but we've got 3 games now before the turn of the year, right? And after the turn of the year, we lose Heung-min Son, we lose Pape Matar, Yves Bissouma as well. I'm just struggling to see how Spurs can navigate through that period of the season, missing out on Heung-min Son, who's obviously been so vital, especially Pape Sarr as well. You've seen the kind of stats of when Sarr is in the team, when Sarr's not in the team. So I'm not so confident and I'm not so positive about that period.
All those are problems. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's in the new year. For now, we're doing very well. We've got ourselves in a great position. And I think looking at the table, I think Spurs fans will be really pleased with where they are. And, 6 points off top after 17 games, I don't think you can complain too much.
Yeah, and it should be less, to be honest, with the games that we have dropped this season in terms of Villa, West Ham, Wolves to a certain extent as well, Chelsea to a certain extent. I mean, we should have got more points in all of those games.
Exactly, and now we're getting back to winning ways as well. I think we've been really consistent this season in terms of level of performance. Results maybe, sometimes haven't gone our way, but I think you look at the performance level and it's been remarkably consistent considering Ange's, first few months in the job. So once we get the players back, come February, who knows what can happen.
Yeah, and I thought actually that Nottingham Forest one could have been like one of the poorest of the lot in terms of our performance this season.
Yeah, probably, but we got the job done.
Yeah, exactly. But let's go on to Bournemouth against Luton. The match was abandoned, unfortunately, so no score predictions for this one. Obviously, the game was absolutely marred by a tragic episode for Tom Lockyer once again. Cardiac arrest he suffered, and obviously the game got abandoned. It's just awful to see something like that happen. And it's the second time it's happened to him. It happened to him in the playoff final not so many months ago. And yeah, it was just something that completely marred the game, and obviously the game couldn't carry on after that.
Yeah, and apparently after that incident in the playoff final, he had heart surgery as well to try and rectify the situation. So it's got to be really concerning, obviously, that it's happened again. And it was very emotional scenes. You saw at Bournemouth, the vitality on Saturday. You saw when immediately after it happens, Rob Edwards runs onto the pitch, and with massive concern, the players have their head in their hands, and obviously, rightly, I think apparently Iraola came up to Edwards after the incident, just pretty soon after the incident happened, just said, "Look, the game's over. This isn't the game's not important now. Let's just make sure your players are right and everything," which which is, I thought, a real good gesture from him, because maybe another manager on another day might have said, look, no, we still got a game to play. But
I don't think any manager in their right mind would say that, to be honest.
You saw Rob Edwards as well after the game doing a lap of honour, looking very emotional, tears in his eyes. I think really proud of the support that all the football fans were showing. Everything, the whole ground was singing Tom Lockyer's name. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Thankfully he was, I think, awake and stable later that night. I don't know any further updates. I think Luton tweeted out yesterday saying they're not going to give a running commentary on the situation. Just when there's any updates, they'll provide an update. So let's hope he's okay, and everyone connected with Luton is okay at this time, because it's a really tough moment for them. Yeah,
and obviously for this to happen twice in the space of pretty much half a year for Tom Lockyer is absolutely devastating, to be honest. Luton captain, Luton boy through and through. So let's just hope he can get back on the pitch. But
it's impressive that he even, started the season, considering that happened last year in the playoff final. So he did he put in a massive effort. But if it's happening again, obviously, look, they have to take the medical advice about what his future holds for his career. But let's hope for the best for him. Yeah, let's hope for the best. So our thoughts are obviously with Tom Lockyer and his family at this time. Let's move on and talk about the Chelsea game. They beat Sheffield United by 2-0 at Stamford Bridge. Both of us going for 1-0. I thought this was pretty much a very convincing victory for Chelsea, albeit, not the heights that they probably want to reach, but in terms of, in this game particularly, I thought they very much deserved the victory. They had about a 3xG on the day. Cole Palmer was at the thick of things, a 78% possession as well for Chelsea. So Chelsea back to winning ways here. I would say first half, it was very much even. And I think Chelsea would get fans. We're watching it a bit with the Chelsea fan. He was getting very frustrated with what was going on the pitch. I thought Sheffield United were just as good as Chelsea in that first half, and it wasn't very impressive, I felt, from Chelsea. And they were really labouring, and they didn't really create much. Yeah. But then once they got that first goal, it seemed the shackles. Maybe the shackles were off. Maybe a bit of relief, getting that opening goal against a team like Sheffield United, because obviously they're going into this game expecting to win, and it was a massive game for Poch, because if they drop points in this game at home to Sheffield United, then the pressure's really on. So I think there was an air of tension in the game, but once they got that first goal, really good work from Palmer at the thick of things, playing in Sterling. He lays it back to Palmer, he gets the goal. Then I felt like there was a big sense of relief around the ground and the team, and they started to play their stuff. The confidence started to seep through. They got the second goal. It was a bit of a weird goal. Everyone seemed to stop, and Palmer was the only one who kind of carried on, got the assist, and I think Jackson obviously put it away. And probably later on in the game, they could have easily made it 3 or 4 with a few more chances that they made. So I think it probably ended up a convincing victory. But I didn't watch that game thinking, Chelsea are onto something still. I still felt like, look, you got to start somewhere, and they got the win, and maybe that could be a building block to build on for them. That's how Poch has to see it. But I wasn't watching that game thinking that was brilliant from Chelsea. I think they got the job done, but it was very nervy up until the opening goal. Yeah, no, I think you're right in what you're saying about the first half, but I thought second half they created a bucket load of chances, probably could have scored more than 2. It is only at home to Sheffield United, so you're not going to write home about it, but look, they got the 3 points. They haven't got 3 points in a while, so they need to kick on from here. They need to get some points, but I'm just loving seeing what's happening at Chelsea at the moment, and I think if they do sack Poch, they'll be idiots, but I'm hoping that they do sack Poch. So. Where would they be if they didn't even have Palmer as well? Because it's amazing to think, because he's been so far their best player. And he was a one player when he signed him, no one thought he was going to be immediately their main player. It's crazy how you who would have thought where they would be without him at the moment, because he's been so good for them. Yeah, I mean, when he left City, he left for first team football, right? So he must have had some assurances from from Pochettino and the club at Chelsea that he would have some sort of guaranteed playing time. So I actually think when you're looking at Man City, they miss him a bit in Cole Palmer, and they could do with a player like that, to be honest. But I always thought Cole Palmer would do really well at Chelsea, to be honest, and a lot of people were scoffing at the money that they paid for him because he didn't play too much in the Premier League, but I always thought it was a bit of a smart addition from them. Yeah, but I never thought he would be such a big player so soon, you know what I mean? Fair enough. Moving on to the Man City game, they drew 2-2 with Crystal Palace at the Etihad. Tim went for 3-1, I went for 2-0. And it looked like we were onto something for a second, because Man City take the lead in the first half, and then they get the double their lead early in the second half.
And then I have no idea what happened. Suddenly Mateta just turns into like prime, I don't even know who, prime Didier Drogba. I swear, like he gets a goal and then earns his side a penalty. Mateta absolutely bossed Man City at the Etihad for those final 10 minutes.
Got Edison a red card in the first half as well.
Yeah, I didn't see that bit, but I mean...
Dribbled past him and they brought him down.
What the hell is this about? How is Mateta doing this at the Etihad and what is happening to Man City right now?
It's Palace at the Etihad, I tell you, every single year there's just something weird about this fixture that they always seem to turn up and get a result. Even though they're 2-0 down with 15 minutes to go, you think the game's over, the game's dead, they've had nothing throughout the whole game. And they somehow seem to turn it around. Man City will be absolutely kicking themselves. I think this was a case of just Man City completely taking their foot off the gas and allowing Palace back into the game. And I don't think it's a case of Man City really struggling to deal with Palace or anything like that. I just think it was too easy for them at times. They were 2-0 up. They were absolutely cruising. Who got the goal? Grealish got the first goal. Really lovely finish. And then Rico Lewis makes it 2. And it could have been 3. I think Alvarez had a goal which was ruled out for offside as well. So it was almost too easy for City during that game to basically win it. And then you just think the final 50 minutes they're going to just see it out. It's going to be easy, and they took their foot off the gas. They got arrogant. I think that was probably their biggest flaw in this game. Is they got too arrogant. They allowed Palace back into that game, and as you say, Mateta gets one back after good work from Schlüpper. Then it was kind of nervy times for City with the last 15 minutes at 2-1. Whenever there's a goal in the game, there's always that bit of jeopardy that anything could happen, and Foden gives away that penalty, one of the last kicks of the game, and Olise steps up, makes it 2-2, and City is turning around, having dropped points. I would say, in terms of performance level, I don't think there's anything massively to be concerned about if you're a City fan when you're watching the games. I don't think you're watching it thinking we're just a shadow of the team that we were last season. I don't think that's the case. But when it comes to the results, 1 win in 6, that's massively concerning. And you've got to think about why they're not getting these results, how are they dropping so many points, and especially a lot of these games. You know, you look back at obviously the Palace game, you look at the Spurs game probably. These are games that, on the balance of play, they should have been winning. They should have been winning those games and they've conceded last-minute equalisers. Even Liverpool, they conceded late equalisers as well. They should have won that game. So I think there's maybe a bit of an issue late in games at the moment. They keep conceding late equalisers and then don't have that maybe grit at the moment to see out results. And that's got to be really frustrating for Pep Guardiola, whose teams are known for being really good at seeing out games usually. So that's got to be a massive concern. But I still think they're playing pretty well, and I still think the performance level's still good enough. So the problem is for them, they're off next week. They're off to the Club World Cup, and they could be really far behind whoever's top of the league by the time they get back.
Yeah, they're 5 points behind top of the league at the moment, only a point above Spurs as well, which is definitely a cause for concern. But back to your point on, the performance levels, I just think there's something off with them at the moment. There seems to be something off with them every year around this time of year, to be honest. But I think it's a bit different this year. That last year they seemed to completely have shorn up that defence and started to make clean sheets quite consistently. But there seems something very off about that defence at the moment. They're conceding a hell of a lot of goals. Crystal Palace 2 goals, Tottenham 3 goals, Chelsea 4 goals. I mean, they are conceding uncharacteristically the amount of goals at the moment, and Pep needs to do something to shore up that defence, because you do imagine once they shore up that defence they'll be fine, because they can score goals until the cows come home, you know what I mean? So that's the problem for me. It's not their general gameplay and their attacking play, it's their defence at the moment. That's what's holding them back.
Yeah, I think conceding loads of late equalisers. That's been the issue. They've been winning, and then late on they've been buckling under the pressure, which is unlike Man City. So I don't think it's anything Pep's looking at thinking, how do I solve this? I'm pretty sure he's looking at it thinking that this is easily solvable, but he's got to get his players' concentration levels back to their normal level. Otherwise, this title could be slipping away.
This run of
But it's
form,
only 5 points.
I know it's only 5 points, but this run of form that they're on, how many wins have they got in their last,
it's
one win
six.
in the last 6 games? That's terrible for a team like Man City. I don't remember the last time they've been on a run like this, to be honest, especially under Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right.
So Man City only 5 points behind at this stage of the season, with Liverpool playing Arsenal this weekend, which goes in their favour a little bit. But without them playing, I guess they'll have that game in hand, and they can put that in the back pocket a little bit. But
Look, if we were
Guardiola.
talking 8 or 9 points, then I think these are massively concerning. At the moment, it's 5. And they're going to have a game in hand come next week. So I don't think it's panic stations just yet. But if this form continues, then I think, yeah, definitely there'll be a massive concern.
Is there a case to say that, you know, after winning the treble last year and after winning 3 titles in a row, that it's going to be hard to reach those levels again? And can they keep it up? And how long can they keep it up for? How much motivation can these players have consistently year after year?
That's all, yeah, 100%. After a historic season, sometimes a lot of these teams find it hard to go again and find that motivation. That's why sometimes you see. That's why I think Pep was trying to do in the summer, bring in some new blood to bring in that motivation, because that other team had run its course a bit. So I think they are struggling with that in the moment, but we've seen it before. These Man City teams come second half of the season and then they come back strong. So can't count them out, especially when they're only 5 points behind.
Let's move on to St James's Park as Newcastle got back to winning ways. 3-0 win against Fulham. Sim went for 1-1. I went for 1-0 to Newcastle, so I gained a point for this one. I thought it was more or less all one-way traffic, to be honest, in this game. Good performance from Newcastle. Really nice moment seeing Lewis Miley get his first goal for the club, the 17-year-old that has been obviously playing week in, week out for them. But after the really good form that Fulham have been on, it came down to a bit of a crashing ending this weekend.
Well, that whole game plan got ruined because of the red card. Jimenez gets sent off really early on.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden their game plan goes out the window. I actually was following the game and it seemed like quite an even game before Jimenez got that red card. And once it went, obviously Newcastle at St James's Park, they're always going to look. Even 11 against 11, they're going to be massive favourites. It's going to be very, very difficult for Fulham. But once they got the red card, it was going to be almost impossible. And to be fair for Newcastle, they've played 8 home games, won 7 this season, only lost 1. So I know their away form's been poor, but they've been really making up for it with their home form. And as you say, as soon as the red card came, it was one-way traffic. It was only a matter of time before they got the goals, and Miley scored, and then I think Almiron taps in with an open goal after some really poor work from Leno. And Dan Burn wraps up with a 3-0 convincing win. They really needed that, because after crashing out of Europe in midweek, and also being in some bad form in the league, lost 3-0 to Everton and 4-1 to Spurs. They needed a pick-me-up after those set results. It was a really terrible week for them. And I know it's not going to completely overshadow what happened last week, but it's a step in the right direction for them, and they needed some confidence back. And they'll... from a Newcastle point of view, hopefully that will give them the shot on the arm they needed to go again, because it might be easy to think all is lost, having crashed out of Europe, having worked so hard to get into the Champions League last season, then crashing out. They're still sick. They're only 5 points off top 4, so still a lot to fight for them, and still in the Cups.
Yeah, of course. Long way to go. They got a quarter-final this week as well. I think, who's it against? West Ham? No. Who are they playing in the quarterfinals this week?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. But anyway, they're in the League Cup quarterfinal this week. FA Cup starts in January. Long half of a season or more to go for them. So look, a long way to go, to be honest, for Newcastle. And they're starting to get a few players back, albeit Shah went off injured in this game. But Botman seems to be back, and he was in the squad for the game. So starting to filter through a few players on their way back. So I think Newcastle will have a stronger second half of the season, especially with no European football. So good for Newcastle to get back to winning ways. But let's go to Turf Moor, which was the evening game on Saturday. It finished 2-0 to Everton in Sean Dyche's return back to Burnley. Sim went for 2-0. I went for 3-1. So Sim gets a big fat 5-pointer for this one. And look, I thought it was more or less a well-deserved victory for Everton. They're just battering away teams at the moment, to be honest. I'm really impressed with the work Sean Dyche has done. Amadou Onana, Michael Keane put them 2-0 up within 25 minutes, and it was pretty much game over from that point on.
Yeah, that is classic Dyche. 2 goals from set pieces, being very solid, making sure that Burnley aren't creating any good quality opportunities. Burnley pretty much had no answer to those 2 goals from Sean Dyche and Everton, and they got bullied on the day for those 2 goals, absolutely bullied. And Trafford again, found wanting for that goal from the corner. McNeil, who's in great form. I think he's got a goal contribution last like 3 or 4 games in a row. He's in really good form now. His corner, obviously, Onana gets it over the keeper and it's 1-0. And then the second goal was a bit of a defensive screw-up from Burnley. Michael Keane gets 2 bites to the cherry, makes it 2. And Everton never really looked like conceding after that moment. They never really looked like being under any sort of threat. So they will be very proud of that performance. Burnley, on the other hand, again, it's another game where they flattered to deceive. A lot of pretty football, a lot of a forward thing, a lot of moves, but no real good quality chances. And Everton probably found it quite easy on the day after going 2-0 up to see out the result. So very disappointing from Burnley. They didn't really capitalise on that good win they got against was it Sheffield United? They beat them 5-0. And they didn't really capitalise on that. Since then, they've lost 2 and drawn 1. So been very disappointing for Burnley. And Vincent Kompany, you got a question whether it's ever going to turn around for him at this point. After 17 games, the same problems still seem to be there. But Everton, if there wasn't for that points deduction, they would be on 26 points, a level on points with Brighton right now. So fair play to Everton.
And this is what I was talking about. Sean Dyche is doing the business at Everton, man. He's been brilliant all season, in my opinion.
They lost the first 3 games.
Yeah, apart from the wonky first 3 games. Since then, they've been absolutely brilliant all season. And he's got players like James Tarkowski, Dwight McNeil, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Amadou Onana, all playing really well at the moment. And they're such a tough team to beat, such a physical side, probably the most physical side in the Premier League. And he's kind of like Burnley's Sean Dyche team on steroids.
It's 4 clean sheets in a row for Everton as well.
Yep.
So fair play. Like, they're really defending well. That's the staple of a Sean Dyche team, being really solid at the back. And you got to give them credit. I think this points deduction has really galvanised this team as well. I know they were on good form before the points deduction anyway, but I feel like it's taken on another level, and they're playing really well at the moment. So fair play to Everton. And they've got Spurs next, so interesting game.
Yeah, it is a shame that they did get the points deduction, because they really would be pushing Europe this season, and they look like a better outfit than some of the teams in the top half.
They'd be 2 points behind United in 7th, so pushing for that Conference League.
And if you're looking at Man United and Everton, I would say Everton are on a bigger trajectory than Man United at the moment.
Well, the way they're playing, they just seem to have more of an identity than Man United, that's for sure.
Let's go over to the Emirates. Arsenal beat Brighton by 2-0. Sim went for 3-2. I went for 2-1. And look, this was an absolute battering from Arsenal. Probably in terms of creativity, the best Arsenal have been in a couple of weeks. I thought they should have scored a lot more goals. They do have a problem, Arsenal, with finishing off their chances. They can't seem to finish their dinner as consistently as they were last season, just missing a host of chances. They broke the deadlock with an open goal for Gabby Jesus header at the back post. And then they were attacking, creating throughout the whole game. Just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net after that. And Pascal Gross has a gilt-edged chance to level it up right at the end. He misses that chance, and Arsenal got up the other end and steal the game 2-0. But Brighton, man, they're just not a great side week in, week out at the moment.
Yeah, it would have been a travesty if Brian would have got a point out of that, considering how Arsenal was so dominant. I think it was just physically. They completely bullied and suffocated Brighton. Brighton, obviously, we know how they're going to play. They're going to play out the back. They're going to try and play through Arsenal, but they had no answer to how physical and how intense Arsenal were. And I think Declan Rice was leading it with his physicality. Every time the ball got near him, he was winning it back. And Brighton just didn't vary up their play, and it was so predictable. And Arsenal just expected it, and they waited for it. And they absolutely capitalised on it. And Brighton's defence, again, was just all over the shop. They were just conceding chance after chance after chance. They never really got back into the game, apart from that little moment in the last 5 minutes where they did have a little spell, or Gross had that chance, and it wasn't just that chance. They had a bit of possession. So maybe Arsenal, given the fact they were only 1-0 up, and it should have been a 3 or 4 before that, they got a bit nervous. But they did end up sealing the game through Kai Havertz after that missed chance as well. So they did end up being clinical on the day and seeing out the game. But it was absolutely one-way traffic from start to finish. It was a really good display from Arsenal, one of their better ones of recent weeks, I felt, in terms of just from start to finish, just being in total control and creating chances consistently. It was one of their better performances of the season, so they'll be delighted with that, and it obviously put them top of the league. Brilliant win for them. But Brighton, as you say, they just don't seem the same outfit this season. They seem to be struggling to create as many chances as they did and play the football they have. And I think as well, their defence consistently is getting them unstuck. They're just all over the shop, their defence at the moment. So food for thought for De Zerbi, especially when you cast your mind back to end of last season, how they really took Arsenal to the sword at the Emirates. It was just complete opposite. So yeah, good win for Arsenal.
There seems to be, though, like a bit of a consistent theme with Arsenal without really dropping too many points. They're doing really well in games for the first hour, and then taking their foot off the gas and maybe allowing too many chances. And one day they will get punished. I mean, they did in the Fulham game. But if you cast your mind back all the way to the start of the season against Nottingham Forest, they were comfortable in that game up until the final 10-20 minutes when Nottingham Forest started creating chances and got a goal. You're looking at the Tottenham game. Second half, they got completely outplayed, where Arsenal were by far, were the better team in the first half. You've got to say that. You look at the Burnley game as well, where they won 3-1 in the end, but Burnley were creating a host of chances in the final 20 minutes of that game. The Wolves game as well, when they won 2-1, right at the end of the game, they're coming under pressure and could have given that away. And then this game as well, going 1-0 up, going into the last 10 minutes, and Pascal Gross has a really gilt-edged chance where he should be putting it away. So yes, they're winning the majority of those games I'm talking about, but is that a cause for concern, do you reckon?
I think it probably is, but at least you're 2 goals clear most of those games, and then before letting the opposition in. That's definitely something Arteta will look to rectify. I think he'll probably try and tell his team to, you need to keep your concentration for the whole 90 minutes, and you can't let teams back in at the end of the games. But at least they're seeing him out. If they were dropping points on a more regular occasion, he would probably be a lot more angrier. So. I think he'll be all right with it.
And on Declan Rice, there was a moment where he just took it past the whole of the Brighton team and nearly scored a goal, which would have been one of the goals of the season. But as much as it pains me to say it, I got to say Declan Rice, in my opinion, has been the best player in the Premier League this season. What a player he is.
Yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal and so consistent as well. It's just incredible is the level of consistency he's showing at the moment, and he seems to become even a more... I know he was a pretty complete player at West Ham, but I think given the confidence of being in a better team, he's really starting to become that world-class player that we know he was becoming at West Ham.
Let's go to the Brentford Community Stadium as Brentford lost 2-1 to Aston Villa. Sim went for 1-0 to Villa. I went for 2-2. Interesting game of football in this one. I thought... obviously, clutch moments from Aston Villa, going from 1 goal behind in the last 10 minutes. Alex Moreno actually put in a really good display in this one, getting a goal and creating many chances in the first half. Ollie Watkins getting the winner in the last minute. But I thought Villa deserved to win this game, and they were a bit unlucky to go in 1-0 behind at the half.
Yeah, I thought actually Villa was struggling a bit to really make a lot of their possession in a lot of during before the red card, before Brentford got the man sent off, Ben Mee. I actually thought obviously Brentford probably scored against run of play, but they did have a few moments on the counter and they were looking a bit threatening without really doing much. Villa had a lot of possession without threatening to break down Brentford too much as well. So when Brentford got that goal, I was thinking, well, Villa have been really struggling to break down this Brentford team, and they don't like playing against low blocks, but that red card really changed things for Brentford. And once that red card came, all of a sudden then different spaces started to open up for Aston Villa. And Leon Bailey, again, brilliant assist for Alex Moreno's goal, and he's really on great form at the moment. He's only one of 4 players this season to get 5 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League, which is really impressive considering Diaby probably came in to replace him, and he's actually really stepped up in recent weeks and be getting regular goal contributions. So fair play to Leon Bailey. And then they got the late winner, Ollie Watkins, after a flick on from a corner. Very frustrating for Brentford to concede in that manner when they're down to 10 men. And then it all kind of completely blew up in the last few minutes. Maupay barged over Martinez, who went down, and then Martinez went over to Maupay and barged him over, and he went down, and then that started a whole scuffle, and Boubacar Kamara ended up getting sent off for pushing one of the Brentford players in the face, and that'll be frustrating for Villa, and he's going to miss 3 games now, and he's a big player for them, so whether he'll be a big miss, we'll have to wait and see. But a really great win for Villa, because it's Brentford away is one of those banana skin games where you could easily slip up and drop points, and it's one of those games where Villa in previous years easily would have dropped points in this game, but they ended up getting over the line in the end and getting a really good win. Keeps them in third place in the top three and only 1 point behind top. So fantastic result for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Unbelievable season so far for Aston Villa. To be 1 point from top at this stage of the season, mixing it with the Liverpools and the Man Cities and the Arsenals is absolutely nuts, to be honest. And it's just a testament to the great job that Unai Emery has done so far at Aston Villa. And, even when you're not at your best, to go away to Brentford and to get those goals and to win the game after being 1-0 down is a great result, to be honest, because, even the best of teams can go to Brentford and struggle. So to get the win is very commendable. But let's go over to the London Stadium as West Ham beat Wolves by 3-0. Both I was going for 1-1 here. Fairly convincing from West Ham, but it was all about Mohamed Kudus in this game. 2 goals. Another firing performance from him. Jarrod Bowen again with another goal for him, and them two are just like pulling West Ham through at the moment. And I don't think it was that convincing from West Ham, to be honest. I just thought they found some really good moments in the game and took away this pretty poor Wolves side. And I think Wolves are a bit of a cause for concern with their form at the moment. Only like 2 wins in their last 8 or 9 games, and I think they should be doing a bit better, to be honest.
Yeah, I think when it comes to West Ham, when you've got quality like Kudus, Bowen and Paquetá, you know that if you keep it solid at the back and you're not conceding chances, those 3 can run riot, and that's exactly what happened. I thought all 3 of them were absolutely on the top of their game. They completely exposed Wolves' back line in this one, and they took them to the cleaners. I don't think it was a performance where they were massively impressive as a team. I just thought the front 3 were completely mesmerising, and as you say, Kudus, 2 brilliant goals in that first half. There was so much great individual work from him. First one cuts inside on his left foot, smashes it low into the corner from outside the box. The second one running in behind on his right foot this time, coolly finishes it into the far corner and to make it 2-0. Paquetá, I thought, was laying on chance after chance for the front 3, and obviously Bowen sealing it late on with a third. And I just thought that individual quality saw West Ham through, and it was a really, really great result. Really good 3 points. And it was another display of the quality that West Ham have in their front line, and they should be making more use of. And they'll be delighted with that. Puts them in 8th, 1 point behind Man United. Yeah, Wolves, look, they're still in 13th, so in terms of league position, nothing massively to be concerned about yet. But the form has definitely dried up, and it does seem as though if Hwang Hee-chan and Cunha are having off days, then it seems like Wolves are really struggling. That's the reality at the moment.
Yeah, totally agree. But yeah, I mean, good for West Ham to get that 3-0 win. It was kind of something that they needed at that moment in time. But talking about Mohamed Kudus, Man United fans must be looking at Kudus being like, he's doing everything that we wanted Anthony to do in a Man United shirt. And they must be thinking like, we just signed the wrong guy from Ajax.
He is so much better than Anthony. I can't even tell you. So much better. Anthony could never. I think Kudus in that 1 goal he scored in the first goal has done something that Anthony's just never done in his time at Man United. He's so much more physical, so much more ability to take people on, and as well he seems to, like, when he gets to those positions, he seems to have that confidence to really get a shot on target or strike the back of the net with that left foot. And Anthony prided himself at Ajax of being that kind of player, but at Man United he's just so different, and I think Man United will definitely be absolutely furious with how things have gone, and especially when you're looking at Kudus tearing up. I think it's how many goal contributions now in his last 6 games. He's gotten 5 goal contributions in 6 games. What form this guy is on, and it's amazing. And
this is in a defensive side as well that like don't want to attack really.
And it's amazing because like we were saying it in the summer, he was so obviously going to be a great player because of how great he looked at the World Cup and how good he's been for Ajax. But West Ham have done a marvellous job being able to convince him and getting ahead, because this guy's stock is only going to rise. Yeah. And be interesting to see if how long he stays at West Ham for.
Yeah, we were speaking to Nicky, weren't we, West Ham fan TV, and he was saying, we're not going to be able to hold on for him for too long. And they know the quality that this guy has. I mean, he is miles above anyone in that team, even Jarrod Bowen, in my opinion. But let's go on to the final game of the weekend, which was the big one, Liverpool against Manchester United at Anfield. Before this game, Man United had not scored scored 1 goal at Anfield since 2016. And that record has stayed. It did finish 0-0. Still went for 4-1. I went for 5-0, both to Liverpool. And you know what it should have been? to be honest. This game was all played in Man United's half. Liverpool absolutely dominated the game. They just could not find the back of the net for love nor money. I think it set a record that most saves in a game since David De Gea's performance at was it at Wembley or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when Man United played Tottenham, and they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. I was actually really disappointed with the way Liverpool were in the final third, because they were doing all this great work to get it into the final third, and every time they were in the final third they kept rushing things, poor passing, poor finishing. I think like Van Dijk and Konate had their most chances on goal from like set pieces, which was crazy to think about with the attacking talent that they did have. Klopp has got to be really angry with not getting 3 points in this game, because even at one stage United went up the other end with Højlund and even could have nicked something, which would have been absolutely a travesty with the way the game was going. And obviously the sending off as well, Diego Dalot, absolutely bizarre sending off, to be honest. He complains to the referee, gets a booking, and complains again, gets another booking. I mean, it was just ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah, Michael Oliver's form for it. I remember, I think it was last season or 2 seasons ago, Martinelli. It was a similar incident. He made 2,001 in one incident, and he gave him 2 yellow cards and sent him off. I remember
that one was right, though.
I remember, of course it was. Yeah, I remember there was one game a few years ago in the Champions League where Real Madrid are playing Juventus, and it's Buffon's last ever Champions League campaign for Juve, and he sends off Buffon for arguing with him about a penalty he gave and didn't give him a chance to, save the penalty. And it just basically, Mike Oliver likes to make things all about him. He likes to be the centre of attention. This was another indication of it. I thought that it was an absolute ridiculous decision to give him 2 yellows, just because, first of all, Mike Oliver got the decision wrong. It was a throw into Man United, so he was frustrated that he got the decision wrong, and then he was frustrated for getting booked for that he got the decision wrong because he complained about it, and then he gave him another yellow. I thought it was a joke, absolute joke. It wasn't like he was in his face. He was just in the corner, just throwing his arm. He was just annoyed that Mike Oliver got the wrong decision, and I think Oliver took that to sit. He didn't have to do that. He just didn't. He could have easily just given him a yellow and moved on, but he decided to make the whole thing about him. Gave him 2 yellows and sent him off. I thought it was a ridiculous decision, and I think Mike Oliver has a bit of a power trip. But in terms of the game itself, yeah, I felt Liverpool just lacked any sort of composure in front of goal in this game. Whenever they got into the wide areas, they just kept taking shots from stupid angles and not really working for their opportunities. They basically decided to spam shots at Man United and just hope for a bit of luck. And you did get the feeling in that game, as soon as Liverpool went 1-0 up, it was going to be a completely different game and the floodgates would open. But they never had that composure to just get that goal and to make. Because to be honest, for all their chances and all the work they put in, there wasn't any real chance where I thought, oh, he's got to score there, or it was a real goal. It was just
really the headers from the corners. That was about it.
It was only a real bunch of half chances and a bunch of just rush shots. And maybe the closest they came was when Trent had a shot from 25 yards, which were probably, if that's on target, probably nestles into the bottom corner. But I don't think it was anything Man United did well or was like great defending from Man United. I just thought Liverpool completely rushed the situation, and they completely didn't do themselves any favours with how they treated those chances and when they went into the final third. When it comes to Man United, great point for them, but I'm not watching that game thinking, oh, what a performance, brilliant for Man United, they're really onto something. I just thought it was like a relegation side going away to Liverpool and basically doing everything they can to get a point and to shithouse a draw, a 0-0, and that's exactly what they did. But it was nothing like, and it was nothing impressive or anything about it. Look, they did defend well, and they did throw their body on the line, and they were definitely they did show grit to get that point. And Onana had a good game, made some good saves, but I didn't come away with it thinking, what a brilliant performance from Man United. They're really turning a corner here. I just thought they got lucky to come away with that from a 0-0, and it's not a performance that's going to think that anything's going to change anytime soon for them.
This was all down to Liverpool. This is all down to Liverpool and how kind of erratic they were in the final third. Nothing to do with Man United. I completely agree with that. They'll walk away with it very happy and probably proud that they went to Anfield and took a point. But look, on another day, this could have finished 5-6, 7-0 to Liverpool, and it probably should have done. And I think the front line of Liverpool need to probably look at themselves for this game and say that they were at fault for not doing anything in this game. But I want to talk about one player for Liverpool, which is Dominic Solanke. For the past 3 or 4 weeks, I've been so unimpressed with him. So unimpressed, because I thought he started life to Liverpool really good, being at the thick of things, creating. But now he seems to every single game take him off on the 60-minute mark when they need a goal, pushing in the last stages of the game, and he doesn't seem to have any sort of the same impact that he was having at the start of the season.
Yeah, I thought he had a really poor game on Sunday, and yeah, I don't know what it is at the moment with him. Maybe he's just going through a bit of a period. Maybe he's still young. Remember, he's still only 22. So obviously there's going to be some adaptation period as well. He obviously started the season really strongly. It wasn't that long ago. He scored a second goal at Sheffield United as well with a really good finish. I still think he's a quality player, but at the moment he is definitely going through a rough patch. He's not playing at his best, and maybe he just needs to be taken out of the team for a game or two just to freshen up. I think it happens with players sometimes when they're playing every week, and especially young players. So I don't think there's anything to be massively concerned about overall in terms of how we started life at Liverpool, but definitely he's going through a bit of a poor period in form. So definitely something for Klopp to consider, because Harvey Elliott's coming on every game and looking a lot better. So maybe it's time to give him a run.
Yeah, I think I would if I was Jurgen Klopp, to be honest. And Liverpool second in the league now, a bit of a kick in the teeth that they didn't win, because that was for sure probably 95% chance that they should have won that game, to be honest. But when you're looking at the title race now, you've seen 17 games from Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, even Villa, even Tottenham. You got to say 6 points behind. Who do you think has been the most convincing for you so far?
In a weird way, Liverpool have been really good at home and scored lots of goals, but there's still times away from home they don't look amazing, and they've been scraping results. Same with Arsenal. I think away from home they don't look amazing, and they do seem to be scraping results sometimes when they don't deserve it. In a weird way, I still think City look the most convincing, because even in their draws, those are games they've been in control of, and they just let the game slip away in the last few minutes with a late equaliser. But in those games, generally, they've been the team in control, and it's goals against run of play, whereas I feel like Liverpool and Arsenal have less control over some of these games, but they end up getting victories. So I think, and then obviously Aston Villa doing great, but I'm still not massively convinced of them, especially away from home. I think at home they're doing really well. I still look at their squad and I look at their team and I think, is it good enough to win the league? Those forward players, an injury or two, they're going to start to really struggle. And also, even if they lose form a bit, one of those forward players loses form, they're going to start to really struggle. So I still think, in a weird way, Man City have been the most convincing, even though they're 1 win in 6. I still think the way they play and how I'm seeing them control games, I still think they control games better than both Arsenal and Liverpool. So after 17 games, I'm still looking at them and thinking they're the team to beat.
I'm looking at this title race and I'm not convinced by any of those teams. Maybe it's because we've been so spoiled in the Premier League for the past 4 or 5 years, where you needed 99 points or something crazy to win the league. It's not going to be anywhere close to that tally this year, I don't think. So maybe we've just been a bit too spoiled in the Premier League, thinking that you need that kind of points tally and you need to be pretty much unbeatable to go and win the league. But I don't think it's like that this season, because of the drop-off from Man City, because Arsenal and Liverpool aren't as strong as the Man City team has been over the past 4 or 5 years. I just feel like this year is more competitive because of maybe the drop-off in quality at the top of the league.
I don't think it's a drop-off. I think it's more competitive because there's more... The whole top 10 is very competitive. They all have very good teams. A lot of them have quite settled managers as well, who've been there for over a year as well. Then you've got teams like Spurs who have found a new philosophy, a new way of playing, and they've become a really good team. So I don't think there's been a drop off from the top teams. I think it's more to do with the nature of the league. Competitiveness in the league is heightened, and that means more teams are dropping points against each other, in my opinion. So I think just the overall strength of the league is higher. So that's why I think it's more competitive, and that will lead to maybe the winner of the league overall points being dropped. I
mean, you say it's not a drop off, but if you look at Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal in isolation, right? You look at Arsenal. I actually think, maybe they might be a better team and a harder team to beat than last season. But in terms of going forward and how aesthetically pleasing they are, I don't think it's anywhere close to what they were last season. You're looking at Liverpool and compare them to maybe the Liverpool sides that challenged Man City all the way. I don't think that's close either. And you're looking at Man City as well for the teams that they, got 99 points as well. I don't think it's as strong as theirs. So I think there has been a bit of a drop-off.
I think Arsenal have a stronger squad than last season. I think Liverpool are better than last season as well.
Last season, but I'm comparing them to probably the best Liverpool sides that have challenged City all the way.
Yeah, but you've got teams like Villa, Spurs, Newcastle, West Ham, Brighton. They're all a lot stronger than they were back in those days. That makes the whole competitiveness a lot higher.
Yeah, it does. But you look at the teams that they're dropping points to. They're not Liverpool have dropped points to Luton. They've dropped points to Brighton.
Well. Brentford, a good team. They've
dropped points to Chelsea. I mean, Liverpool are dropping points to. Man City have dropped 5 games in the last 6 or 4 in the last 5. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's like, because that year where Liverpool and Man City were doing it, they were just battering teams week in, week out. It doesn't matter who they were coming across against.
Yeah, because the overall league wasn't as strong. That's why they were battering them.
But they're dropping points to like Luton and Brighton, Brighton are worse than they've been in the last 3 years. And
Brighton are not worse.
Brighton, of course they are.
They're worse than they were last season. First of all, actually, they're worse than they were last season, not the last 2-3 years.
Okay, last year they're worse than they were last year. I mean, we're looking at this Brighton side saying they're hardly getting a win at the moment. Fine, maybe in the last 2-3 weeks they've picked up a couple of wins.
But that's just Brighton. They're still in the top half. You know what I mean? They're still doing all right. Like, I think that you look at the league, there are very few teams where you just think it's an easy game. Like, apart from the bottom 3, I know they dropped points to Luton, but I think in general. That the overall league is very, very tough at the moment.
I agree with that, and I agree with you saying the other teams have got better, but I do think like they have dropped off a tiny bit as well.
I just maybe a bit, maybe a bit. I just think it's more to do with the overall league strengthening rather than the drop off.
But it is like the most competitive league we've ever seen, probably in the Premier League.
100%.
From like first to like 7th, 8th, apart from Man United, we've got all good teams there.
Literally, it's crazy. The overall quality is unbelievable, and it's set up for a very exciting second half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at it right now, and in terms of a league title, in terms of a title race, any team now from 1st to 5th that put on a mad run together, like say 5, 6, 7, 8 wins together, have got a massive shout of winning that title.
100%. It's very open and it's ridiculous. If you're getting to halfway through the season, you're still in with a shout. That shows consistency. So you got to say that you can't rule any of them out.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about the star men this week. Both of us getting 0 points. Sim going for Brennan Johnson, who once again was forced off early through an injury. He did have that chance early in the first half, but unfortunately went off injured.
Yep, gutted. Got the cut on the head and it screwed me over.
Yeah, and I went for Trent Alexander-Arnold, and if anything was going to happen from someone, it was going to come from him, but unfortunately it didn't. He did have that chance, didn't he, from 25, 30 yards. Nice, really nice shot that just went just past the post. I thought that was in, but unfortunately it wasn't. So we do finish off this week. We do have a leader this time. Sim is in the lead, 220 to 216 going into next week. We do have Thursday night is actually the first game of the next Premier League weekend. So on Wednesday, we'll be back with Predict the Prem. But thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.